What is good, YouTube? Katana here. And as you can see, we got another build video today. But before we get into that, I want to discuss a few things. One, I know it took a little bit for me to release my first build video. It's been a week since it's released on console. And the way I like to do my build videos and my builds is that, I go from class to class and I test out different variation and things like that. These builds that I'm going to be releasing is strictly for no proc Cyrodiil. If you want to be dueling, you can duel in these. You can go into no CP, you can go into BGs and all that stuff with these builds, into IC and all that. Just know that in my personal opinion, I don't think they're best in slot for those situations. I think it's just great in no proc Cyrodiil. But they're most definitely doable and viable in those places. It's gonna be a little tougher when you get procs down and things like that. I would try to go for a little bit different approach. So if you want like those builds for those specific areas, I suggest to look at my older build videos. But if you don't care and you're kind of just gonna put balls to the walls and say just screw it, then you can go ahead and use this build for all those places too, because that's what I've been doing. Now, another thing is, I'm not going to be showing my CP. Specifically, I don't want to show my CP because I kind of want people to figure it out. I feel like it's too early to release CP. I don't think people grow unless they learn. And if you see my other videos, you know that my personal opinion is that if you read it and you do pretty much educated reading, implying that you read something and you understand what you're reading, because it's self-explanatory. It's not like the words that they present in this game are not, English or understandable. They're English and they're understandable. So all you have to do is just read and understand what you're reading, and that will help you out with your CP. That's what I could say. But in terms of builds, again, like I was saying before, I don't have access to like the PTS and things like that, like other creators and things like that. But what I do have to say is that I thoroughly test out these builds myself and do different variations of the build to test out which one I personally like. And since we're going back to old ESO, I do have to say that as a tip for especially newer players, look at different build videos so you can get an idea of, this may be what I want. So, for example, if you were to copy and paste my build, you may be saying, you see, I may want a little bit more mitigation. Even though I have a whole bunch of mitigation and resistances with this build, you may feel like you want more for whatever reason. The way I typically like to play is high risk, high reward, so I end up being on the burstier side. Back in the day when fortified brass was a thing, I never personally truly liked it like that, but other people did. For example, another meta that people liked, but I personally didn't like it, and I knew it wasn't even crazy good like that, was the Bright Throat meta. It was just kind of whatever. There was other sets that were better than that, in my opinion, and also in other people's opinions. But as you can see, my unbuffed front bar looks pretty decent. My buffed back bar on my rune, I mean, look at those resistances. With the advanced stats that I got, 70% block mitigation. So as you can see, I'm actually very tanky. And now going into the build itself, I'm a high elf. This is my MAGPLAR build. I use the Mage Mundus. You could use whatever Mundus you want. I am a Vamp. I do have all points into Mag. Now in terms of skills, again, this build is recommended for no proc Cyrodiil. You can most definitely use it in IC, BGs, no CP, and duels. But just be aware, it may not be the best in those certain situations. This is specifically no proc Cyrodiil. Could you use it in those situations? Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I've already tried them. It is usable. It's just going to be a little bit more tricky because procs are a thing in those areas. The carried people can't let go of them carries, so it'll be a little bit more tricky. So this is specifically for open world. So back bar, we have Elusive Mist, Living Dark, Honor the Dead, Channeled Focus, Extended Ritual, Swarming Scion. You could switch out Swarming Scion for a few different things. Specifically, Comet or Temporal Guard, up to you. Now front bar, Crescent Sweep, Degen, Inner Light, Solar Barrage, Toppling Charge, and Puncturing Sweeps. And again, Solar Barrage is a kind of a flex spot where you can switch out for Purifying Light if you want. Inner Light is also a flex spot, which if you want to be that person, just use Radiant Impression instead. And Degen, if you feel like you need more penetration, you could just put on Elite Drain. But I typically don't swap out Degen. And the same thing goes with your ultimate. If you don't like Swarming Scion or Ice Comet on your back bar, you could easily just put swap it out with Crescent Sweep. Now, in terms of sets and slottable items, my slottable items that I typically use, tripods as usual, just basic tripods, and then foods, sugar skulls. I obviously prefer them. Now, sets, Spinners Sharpened on the front bar with the weapon damage enchantment. If you don't know what Spinners does, it just gives you a crap ton of penetration, which is very good. I got Potentates on the back bar. You could use whatever any sorting board you want on the back bar. I typically use Powered and Sturdy. Up to you to what you use. Jesus, I can't talk today. I typically use Endurance on the back bar, to be honest. It's just my Endurance is on another character because, like I said before, I've been going from tune to tune playing all of them. So, One Piece Pirate Skeleton. And if you don't know what it does, it gives you armor. That's how you get a little bit more resistances. It's going to be Impen. All of it's going to be Impen. This is Triglyphed. This is also Triglyphed. So my big pieces are Triglyphed. And I'm using Amber Plasm as my secondary set. Now, if you feel like, oh, Amber Plasm, I don't have that set. I have to go farm that set. If you don't want to use Amber Plasm, I highly recommend using Amber Plasm. It is a great set. But if you don't want to use Amber Plasm, you could easily just use Crafty. But if you use Crafty, you're going to probably have to change the glyphs on your jewelry a little bit. Or maybe even your Mundus to the Recovery Mundus. And you're probably going to have to wear like maybe 3 Mag Recovery glyphs. But I don't know. It depends on you and your sustain. Because they took away Tenacity from the CP tree. So things are a little bit more different, right? I'm wearing One Piece Chuden. Again, it gives armor. And as you can see, the rest is Amber Plasm. Triglyphed on the big pieces. And then we have Arcane, 1 spell damage, 2 recovery. Now, in terms of what my stats look like buffed up on my front bar, there you go, 4.2 spell damage, 12.8 spell penetration, 41.7 max mag. If I pop a pot, because you're going to be chugging them things anyways, 1.7 mag recovery, 1.2 health recovery, 1k stam recovery. Now, we've already seen it on the back bar, but I'm going to show you guys again. And now, my recommendation for people when you're making builds this patch, the biggest thing you're going to want to look at, and as a tip, is right here, your penetration, right? Damage is great, spell damage and weapon damage, and that your max stats are great. But if you don't have a decent amount of penetration, these things are gonna feel like they hit for crap. So you could have 8k weapon damage or 8k spell damage, but if you have like 6k penetration, you're gonna feel like you're hitting like a wet noodle. Especially with everybody running around with fortified brass, which is why I'm using a sharpened spinner staff for more pen. I've even debated using the Lover Mundus instead of the Mage Mundus just to have more pen, just so I could really burst down people. But again, completely up to y'all. Different races that you could use instead of High Elf. Dark Elf is 101,000,000% usable. Argonian is usable. Breton, you could use it. Do I recommend it? Not my cup of tea, but other people may like it. And Argonian, Dark Elf, High Elf, Breton. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but those would be typically the races you would use as a MAGPLAR. And there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe.